And now, as we already know a lot about ourselves, or some about ourselves, our bodies, how we function, and what time do we go to bed when we are productive. And you, of course, can stop here and reflect about this and maybe draw yourself a little graph like this and write, for instance, that, oh, this is the time when I'm waking up. This is the time when I'm very, very productive with my studies or my work. And at this time, I usually do sports and la 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 la. So this little self-awareness and self-reflection will answer you a question why you can't work at certain hours, or why is it so hard to motivate yourself, and why do you always have to open Facebook, etc. Actually, I could give a funny example here. I had a boss who would say that from 3 to 4 he's unable to focus. Let's see. So somewhere here, he was very fast in his reaction time and very, very good at coordination, but the alertness wasn't so good anymore. So he would always schedule himself a meeting so that he can talk or interact or somehow be active, so that he doesn't sit being distracted. And as soon as I learned this, I actually felt that I have the same. Maybe you're also like this, that around this afternoon time, the performance of the highly demanding tasks is not so easy. Yeah, maybe like when you start your work at 10, you're very motivated and you're very decent at details and etc etc. But by noon, it's getting like the balance of thoughts and interesting things, and work is leaning towards the interesting things. So you might consider that and try to find yourself some assignments which would maybe be creative, or would involve communication or working with your peers together, so that you can use this time effectively too. All right, so let's go into how we can work with our goals. So I'd like to start with introducing several goal setting methods that are so far known. Actually, there are plenty. If you Google some of them, there would be like, different acronyms with funny words and different meanings, etc. So I'll talk about two of them. One of them is a traditional one, and I'll talk about its pros and cons. And the other one is actually also introduced by Carol Dweck in her book, Just Working Simply. And I think this is a very nice one. So for some, the first one wouldn't work, and although it's very useful in your goal setting, somehow it might not be so much fulfillable at the end. Yeah, so you might want to check your goals according to both of these types, or maybe prefer the second one. Okay, so the first one is widely known as SMART model. If you haven't heard about this before, I will tell you about this now, and then perhaps you will hear about this 100 million other times in your future, in your careers. And yeah, this one is like a celebrity of the goal setting. Okay, so what does SMART mean? It stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based goals, which means that by setting your goals, it should be specific. So, for instance, you say, I want to buy a car. So this is not a specific goal. You have to say, I want to buy a Volkswagen that. Okay, this is a very nice example. I'm nothing like a car professional, but let's say like Volkswagen Sambo, like, and of 1996. I want that car, this amount of gas or something, and then it should be measurable. So with our car, it's I want to buy this for this amount of money. And also, this measurable means that you will see the results. So, for instance, if your goal is to become smarter, okay, this is a better example. If your goal is to become smarter, you have to say that, okay, I want to, for instance, I want my English to improve, I want my grades to be higher. So this is specific, and then measurable means that, oh, okay, I will reach the C1.2 in my English, and that I will get 90% of my grades as A's, and la la la. So now your smartness is operationalized. So now you can understand what do you actually mean by being smart. Okay, then the goal should be attainable. Okay, so if you say that you want to graduate with all A's and you already had only B's in past 3 semesters, so this is not an attainable goal. Or if you're, for instance, a mother, and then you say you want to work full time, maybe this is not an attainable goal for you at this point. So you have to really reflect on what is your life situation. Are the circumstances actually good, like for you to attain this goal, or there are so many inhibitory factors that actually will prevent you from doing this, and you will only get disappointed. So yeah, somehow it should be more or less realistic. So the next one is called relevant. Sometimes they call realistic. This is what I just described, and also that this should be somehow a goal that is relevant for your task. So, for instance, if you want to become a master student, or you want to become, let's say, an HR director, so it's very irrelevant to go and work as a construction worker, for instance. Yes, so somehow, if you just think, okay, I just have to earn money first, or something like that, that wouldn't be really a relevant goal. If you want to make a big purchase, you would only need to collect money for that. You don't want to buy another big purchase. So it should somehow be rational regarding your lifestyle. Okay, and also it has to be time based. This is a very good one. You would want to set the goals which have a time bound. um, so, for instance, if you have a goal to pass all your exams and go back home, then you would want to say that, okay, I want to pass all my exams till January 1 or January 3. And then you will understand that, okay, I have some time bounds. This is like an internal deadline that you set up for yourself. I don't know. So, whichever is in your head, you have to go through all this and see if this goal is actually smart or it's a very unattainable goal and the opposite of smart. Yes. So somehow this model would be helpful for you. Hopefully, just think of one of the goals that you have at the present moment and try to analyze them to see if they are smart or not. So when at the end of our session today, you will be looking for you will be creating a list of your goals or your plans. You would want to consider this model. Right. So the other model that was introduced by Carol Dweck is called Ready. I think these two look very nice. Smart and ready. How are you today? I feel smart and ready. Okay, so here it's slightly different. And somehow it's slightly different, leaning towards emotions, yes, and motivation. So the first one stands for realistic, then exciting, action-oriented, directive, and yours. So realistic. This is something we already talked somewhere here. So realistic means attainable and relevant. If you say like I want to become as rich as Elon Musk in like by 2021, okay, maybe this would fail all of the ready model tests. Maybe it would be exciting though. Maybe you would want to choose a goal which is realistic for your current situation and a little bit not just an easy goal, but of course something that gives you a challenge but still realistic. Okay, so at the same time it should be exciting. So if you say I want to walk 500 steps a day, okay, maybe you walk 500 steps a day every day. Even if you stay at home, it's inevitable. And so that it's exciting, maybe you would want to say, oh, I want to, I don't know, walk 15,000 steps a day, for instance, and um, compete with my friends on it, or see who walks more steps a day. So it should be somehow exciting for you. Yeah. Or you want to plan some sort of trip, So you want to go and spend a week in Austria, for instance, and yeah, this might be realistic. And if it's exciting for you, yeah, then go for it. Okay, then action oriented. So this means that your goal has to have a verb in it. So you can't just write trousers or I don't know a dress. This is not like if I read your goal, I have to understand what it means. So do you want to buy a dress or pants? Do you want to sew them? Do you want to I don't know get someone to buy them? Do you want to throw them away? What is the action behind your goal? Okay, so you have to write a verb. Also here I would like to say something that if you write your goals as the in your list, for instance, it's very commonly useful to write them in the past tense. So I went to Austria, or I've been to Austria, for instance, for 2 weeks. So as if you already done that, and when you will tick this, it would say, yeah, I went to Austria. Okay, so it's just a simple example. Or I bought this dress. Okay, so this way you also make this directive. So you can say that it's not a sort of vague become smarter goal, but I don't know, achieved level C2, C1, 2 in English. Okay, and then it of course has to be yours. So this is also somehow about relevance. Um, so this means that if you look at this goal, why do you want to achieve it? You ask yourself, why do you want to achieve it? Is it that your parents want you to do that? Is it that in society everybody does it and that's why you want it? Or is it that it's like just your true essence and you feel like that improving your English would be really beneficial for your own life and that you really, really want it? Okay? So that's why you have to check if the goal is yours or if it's not. Now I'd like to introduce you to several models that people in the business work use to set their goals and to fulfill their goals. So previously there was this very simple way of doing things. This is you can imagine an organization now where for instance, IT manager said, "Okay, I want a website to be developed," and then his subordinate says, "Okay, I will tell my colleagues to do it." Okay, and then the developers started to do it. They made a model. They started working on it, and la la la. So they were fulfilling the task that was given. And at some moment when the task was over, they would bring it to the first manager. He or she would look at it and say like, "Oh no, this is not what I wanted." So they would be highly disappointed with the huge work that is done, and it might even take like up to a year to fulfill this task. But at the end, it wouldn't be what was requested initially. So this is somehow very, very unsmart to do this way. For some organization, it works. If the task is simple or specific, then it's okay. But somehow managers started to think, oh, how can we actually do it better? How can we make the process in a way that we can get instant feedback? And here I invite you to treat your life or treat your goals as little projects where you're a manager. And now I will introduce this little system to you. So it's called Kanban board. And here you can see in this picture that there are 4 columns. So the first one is called backlog or a to-do list. So a to-do list or backlog is just a list of everything you ever have to do regarding the project. So let's say you take this one class and you write out everything that you will have to do at some point. You maybe look at the syllabus and you write out, oh, I have this assignment, that assignment to the bit. Maybe you would put some deadlines on that if there are deadlines available, and that's it. actually, backlog and to-do list can be two columns. So backlog is all the tasks, and to-do list is something that you, for instance, have to do this week. I sometimes create myself here a column of this week I will do, and then I move the little sticky papers into the next column. Then work in progress is something that you started. So something that okay, you wrote this 1 page or 5 pages, and then it's here, and maybe you will come back to this tomorrow, but you have a deadline on it, and everything is clear, and therefore, like, you know that okay, I'm working on this now. Then we have the validate stage. So, for instance, you are creating a presentation, or you are an IT manager and you are creating a website. And at this point, you want to validate it with your supervisor, teacher, or manager, and then you show it to them and ask for feedback. Maybe after validate, this again will go into work in progress, and you will have to somehow improve this. But generally, yeah, that's it. Maybe they would say that, oh, this is a perfect presentation, and then you move this card into complete. Here you can also add a column called archive. So all the completed tasks which are not relevant, you will not look at them anyhow. You can just move into archive or archive column, or you can delete them, of course, if you want. Or if you like to count how many tasks you fulfilled, you can keep them and be happy about the amount you did. So this looks like a very simple tool, but actually this is so powerful. So this differs from your simple to-do list 100%. And yeah, maybe it would just, improve your productivity a little bit, but somehow it makes you feel, or it might make you feel less overwhelmed, and the process would be so much more clear. There are also several tools that you can use for creating such a board. For instance, Trello. This is widely used by managers in different companies. And also another one that I use, and I already recommended it to you, is called MeisterTask. So there you can also create that. For instance, you can also tag, in Trello, for instance, you can also tag who is going to be in charge of what. Of course, if it's your project, then it's just you. But if you're, for instance, doing a presentation with your friend, or doing a big project or a conference organization, it might require you to assign some tasks to other people. Or even if you're planning a new year, okay, so there would be like 5 people involved, and or Christmas Eve, and then some of them will buy a fir tree, some of them will serve the dishes, whoever else would, I don't know, come up with entertainment part, or will be making the photos of the evening, and you want to distribute those tasks between people, and you might use the Trello board. In my life, I have used this in a very interesting situation. I have, when I was getting married, we were planning our wedding by creating a Trello board, and I had all my bridesmaids and all the groomsmaids involved in this, and everybody could see or recommend something, and we had like lots of conversation on this Trello boards, trying to figure out what's the best and who is doing what. So I would say, yeah, and it was so successful. Yes, so I would say that it's a great tool to manage any kind of project, and by project I mean that it can be a class, it can be a task, or it can be a trip, anything. Yes, yeah, whatever your creativity brings into your mind. And of course, I want to recommend a book which tells more about Scrum, or the whole process of this flexible, not rigid development or fulfillment of any project. So you can go for it. You can read it. It might be useful for your future. Actually, there is even a profession called Scrum Master. So maybe one of you will pursue that. Now I'd like to introduce to you a matrix of priorities. This is a highly important thing. So when you already, for instance, you wrote your backlog or to-do list of all the tasks, you can actually not only check if they are smart and ready, but you can also run them through this matrix of priorities, so that you can know what are the most important. So, of course, those of you who are the prioritizers might be now thinking, oh yes, this is so good. I love this model. I'm so excited to learn about this. But maybe for some others would be like, oh, who cares? But I still encourage you to think about it at least, to see if you're actually investing your time smartly, and if you're investing it into what is needed, not what is coming to you at every moment of your life. So there are these four, I don't know, four spaces, and the tasks are defined in these dimensions according to their urgency and their importance. So it's very simple. So and therefore we have like this four categories of uh, urgent and important, important but not urgent, urgent but not important, and not important not urgent. So you can write it as you like. You can come up with symbols for those, to identify all of your tasks, or you can simply draw this diagram and put them there. Yes, and why did I highlight the important but not urgent as the most important? So as soon as you make this, you will see that sometimes, for instance, like an example of urgent and important task here is that your teacher wrote you an email and they say, oh, correct this task, or oh, like do this, and you're like, oh yes, I made this mistake, I have to correct it right now. And then you immediately start to make this. The reason why they exist is because you didn't do them at this point. So when, yeah, for instance, like let's say it was an assignment that you had, and it wasn't so urgent, you could leave it for later, but it's of course important. But as you didn't really do it on time, it became urgent and important, and of course now you don't have so much time to do it. So the recommendation would be to make the task when it's not urgent yet, so that you have time to apply all the beautiful tools, all the Kanban, and checking the, yeah, proving the outcomes of your work with your, I don't know, mentor or teacher. Um, and when you write out your other tasks, you will see that some of the tasks are urgent, not important, like messages, just, yeah, like maybe pictures come here, like funny memos come here, very urgent, not important at all. So, and also some of them are not important and not urgent at all. Yes, and in this category, like, if any of your tasks, of your current tasks, are actually here, you might want to delete them from your list and just tell people that, oh, I will not do that, or yeah, this is not important at all, and just try to say no to this kind of tasks. So I would not really make up my examples here, but I would encourage you to try to figure out which of your tasks come to what category. And usually, the ones which are here are the ones which are contributing to our current goal. So, our bigger mission or our dream, yeah, of like, I don't know, buying a car, or I don't know, fulfilling this class, or getting all the A's, etc. This would be, those tasks will come here. So maybe sometimes we would sacrifice those to finish those. So usually people start with this, but you as a smart person would want to start with this. And now you have to try to find your way into this. If you want to discuss this more, I'm open. Okay, now it's the time for entertainment. I would like to tell you about time management do. So I called it that because it's very funny. Yes, so these are several types of tasks which you have to pay attention to and recognize, and there are several actions that you have to do with those, and I will tell you about this right now. The first one is called monkeys. The reason why it's flying is that you can imagine a situation when you're sitting somewhere, or you're talking to a friend, and or your group mate, for instance, and they have some sort of task to do, and we can imagine this task as a monkey on their shoulder. And at the moment they say like, why don't you do that for me? Or why don't you just, yeah, can you give a call or make an appointment instead of me? Or can you, yeah, whatever, like, can you finish the presentation yourself? And then this monkey from their shoulder, it just does this. It flies and jumps on your shoulder. So what you have to do is to watch them. So now you have to think, oh, okay, so this task is not my task. This is something that you have to do, and I won't be, I don't know, evaluated on this task, or I won't have to report to anybody on this task, or except for the fact that you asked me to do this, and it's not even my responsibility anyhow. So at this moment, you have to say that, yeah, mentally you have to say like, thank you for your monkey, but no. And in the physical world, you have to, of course, kindly tell them in an I statement that, yeah, unfortunately, my time resources are not good for this, or this assignment is actually belongs to you. So I can give you all my help, but I won't do this for you. You know. Okay, so this is the first member of our zoo. The second one is this. Maybe you can recognize an elephant there. So sometimes our tasks are really huge. They're as huge as an elephant. So, for instance, the task of getting a master's degree or bachelor's degree or something, it might be so big, or getting a job, for instance, it might be so big that it's super overwhelming, you know? And a metaphor for this in time management is that you have to eat an elephant, but to do this, you have to cut it. So if you cut this elephant into small pieces, it would be much easier for you to eat it. So if you're a vegetarian, please imagine an elephant-sized carrot. Okay, so you have to cut it and eat it in really tiny pieces over time. Of course, not at once, because you will explode. So I think it's a very good metaphor for the tasks. And now you can think of some task which was so overwhelming. You were like, how will I even do that? Maybe if you're feeling like this means that you have an elephant around you, and that now you have to sit down and think like, what are the components of this? So as you remember, our example was becoming smarter. You can think of, okay, like now I have to improve my English. So to improve my English, I don't know, what does it mean? I mean, this is such a big task. How will I don't know. And so my criteria would be, my parts of the elephant would be to find some sort of assessment to see where my English is now. And I will use this assessment after I learn it better. So I can actually see if this was effective or not. Then I will find maybe some courses, or I will find some video resources or books that I can use, etc., etc. So I will have little parts of an elephant that I can somehow eat. If they are still very big, you want to cut down that little elephant too, or that little carrot too. Okay, good. So the last one is the frog, and it says eat them. So eating is very, very popular in time management. What are the frogs? The frogs are the tasks which, for some reason, jump from one week to another week. So, for instance, you put them into your to-do list, or into your I will make this week list, and you never finish that. And then you're like, okay, I'll do that next week. And surprisingly, this task might be something that you would spend 15 minutes on, or like maybe 10 minutes on. It might be like, write this email, or write this application, or sign up for this or that. And this would just, jump from week to week, or like call your mother, and then it would jump and jump. And the advice here is to, you can write them out, or create a special column. I have a special column called frogs. And to each of them, I have assigned the time. So I wrote like, okay, this frog means would take me like 15 minutes, or half an hour, or maybe 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever. And if these are like really small frogs, you would want to eat them in the morning. So you wake up when you're very high on your on your concentration. You would you would open your task list and you'd be, okay, I'm eating this frog, and you just do it right away, and then you start all your other activities. You can somehow praise yourself or say that, oh, I'm very, very nice, I ate this frog today, or drink a hot cup of tea, or do something nice for yourself, and then move forward with the task. So because frogs are not so nice to eat, you have to really appreciate yourself for doing it, but still keep doing it. So this is a little zoo of the things that can happen to you when you're in time management. Maybe there are more. If you can come up with your metaphors, go for it. Yeah, I hope this will be helpful for you. Okay, and now we are going to talk about some time management tools, or some uh, products that you can use to advance in your time management skills. One of them is called Pomodoro technique. This is called like that because of the kitchen timer, which you set for a specific time to cook the meal. But in this case, it's just a metaphor for 25 minutes. So one Pomodoro is 25 minutes, and or it can also be 26 minutes if you want. So generally, you just need a timer and to see if it's like, every 25 minutes you work. So 25 minutes is like the power time, and then you have this 5 minutes of break, and then you work 25 minutes again. So if you have to work for 3 hours, you'll have to do like 6 pomodoros. And this is very little and somehow exciting, so maybe this tool will be helpful for you. But you can feel free to extend your Pomodoro to more time. It can be like an hour Pomodoro, 10 minutes or 15 minutes break. And this is how you will do 3 pomodoros in, yeah, for your 3 hour work, and you will have 45 minutes of break, and you will be very effective in your break. You can do whatever. You can drink coffee or tea, you can, I don't know, play something or scroll through your, I don't know, Facebook thread, but be aware that it shouldn't be more. So you should set timer for your break too with alarm, so that you keep the track of your time and you don't create a 25-minute Pomodoro with 1 hour break for Facebook, okay? Okay, so the next tool I would highly recommend is Calendar. And you can use different colors to distinguish um, between your different parts of life. So for me, for instance, I have different colors for fun, for studies, hobbies, and the personal growth. So whichever was fun is yellow for me. Whichever studies is blue, the automatic one, because I have the most of my activities are studies. Then the hobbies are purple, and the personal growth is pink, I think. And the important thing is that you have to have just one calendar. So please don't use your, I don't know, MacBook calendar together with your Google, and then, I don't know, some calendar on your wall, and you write different things into different places, and then you never can find them in one place. So my advice is to just use Google Calendar for all the meetings, or whatever has a time bound, so whatever you can block the time for. And if it's a task, just use your notebook or your Trello or your Meister task. Okay, but you can also, like, if you're a pen and paper person, you can totally go for a little notebook, but just don't use too many, because then you will feel overwhelmed, and this wouldn't make sense anymore, because this has to make your life easier, and if it makes your life harder, then it's not what we were aiming for. Another things that I would recommend to use are Wunderlist and Google Keep. Or maybe you can use Evernote or your notes. So this is something where you can write different notes, or if you have an idea or some task list, or I don't know, some of your teachers tell you to do this or that, and you just have to immediately write it down. Then you would want to have something electronic or something small in your hand, so that you could actually put it down. Okay, so don't hesitate to create yourself something like that. You can also write your poems there, some notes from the conferences you attend, or classes, or summaries of the books you read, and then you will find them in all in one place, even in 5 years or something. Yeah, also out of those, I recommend the Letterbox for movies. I had a Google Keep for all my movies, but now it's much easier to use the Letterbox. It's a nice tool, but this is just a nice hint for you. Um, and of course, the most important thing where you can learn much more tools for time management and your personal productivity is a course called Learn How to Learn or Learning How to Learn. Anyways, I will send you a link. It's a Coursera course, so it offers you a free attendance, but you can also sign up for the paid version and go through all assignments together with a group. But generally, you can also use the audition and watch it for free just for the information, or learn or read the book of Barbara Oakley, which is called Mind for Numbers. Um, this is literally a sort of duplicate of the course, but also it brings new ideas in a new format. And this is a little, yeah, this is a little teaser from her course. So this is an concept that she introduces. It's called the diffuse mode, and I think this is highly important. So what she says is that our brain has some neural connections which look like traces or paths which the thought already goes through when we think it. So in the first picture, you can see that in the focus mode, when we think about something really hard, you're like, oh, how can I learn English better? you know, you will just go through all the ideas which are already familiar to you, like something that you have already known before, and you will just recall that. And the past would be very conventional. And the diffuse mode is the sort of mode which helps you to get the bigger picture. Through this mode, you can actually find some unconventional connections. You can find some new ideas which weren't here. Um, and you would ask me how to reach the diffuse mode. um, this is pretty simple. Like one of the ways is to just go sleep. If you take a nap or you go to bed and you wake up to think over it again in the morning, then you will have more creative solutions because the information in your brain will restructure. It will go through different paths where you're not concentrated on this thought, and it will make this new connections. Also, one of the ways to come into diffuse mode is just to stop doing what you were doing or thinking of and just take some distraction or just simply sit and stare. So give your brain some time to recharge, and therefore it will bring itself into diffuse mode. One of the examples of that is actually, I think it was Salvador Dali, who would bring himself into this diffuse mode by taking a key into his hand and sitting on his armchair and falling asleep. And when the key falls out of his hand, he would wake up already in this new refreshed mode, and then he would write down the ideas that came into his dream or that came to him through this experience. So this is a way people use in different spheres to boost their imagination and to come to more unconventional solutions. Yeah, you should try it out. Okay, so the other part is that to be more productive in your work, you might want to use some mental anchors. So, what does it mean? It means that you would want to use something that you associate with the productive work. One of that could be a ritual, for instance, making a tea or scrolling through your Facebook and for 5 minutes and then starting to work, or settling down on the couch and breathing in, breathing out, or listening to some music maybe. So there should be some music without lyrics so that you don't get distracted. There should be some specific music that you only use in that occasion so that it's anchored or connected in your brain with productive work. You might want to use special clothes for working at home so that it makes you feel that you're in a special environment. It's not just you being in your pajamas, working in your pajamas, trying to write something or solve something, but you being like officially working on the task. You would want to try to avoid working in bed because bed is the place where you sleep, and if you work there, it might be anchored to your working process or to some confusing process of sometimes working or sometimes falling asleep. So your brain needs this mental hints into what place belongs to what activity. If your space is small or you don't have so many places, you might want to choose, I don't know, a library where you would work, or a cafeteria where you read, and so on and so forth. Maybe like on the carpet you do sports, at the table you write articles or write essays, and there you read, and in the bed you sleep, so that you use your space smartly. You don't mix it, and this might be this another 1% of your beautiful achievement called productivity. Now we will go to some practical advice. We keep working with practical advice. I think there are quite a few already. One of the ways to bring yourself into this diffuse mode, or to actually start reflecting on your thoughts or your states and your reaction, is meditation. Somehow it might seem a little frustrating for some people, or some might think that it's spiritual, but at this point of time, meditation is scientifically proven to be effective. I personally tried out quite a few ways and approaches, and if you start your way in this direction, I'm sure you will find yours as well. But just to start simple, you can go for Headspace app or Wake Up app. I'm sure it also offers some of the free content on YouTube and their apps too, which you can start out with. And I think it would be perfect if you try it. And I encourage you to download one of those and try it right after you finish with this presentation. The second one is being active. So to keep yourself going, to bring yourself more energy and more fuel for working, and also to keep your serotonin going, you will want to be active and do some sports. You can also do some yoga. Maybe you're jogging, maybe you're going to the gym or doing karate, or whichever you choose. Or maybe it could simply be hiking or having a long walk every evening. You have to stay active so that your mental state is maintained on the high level. Okay. You would want to use the Pomodoro technique in the way that it's effective for you. So this means that you have to take breaks and rest, because if you work, if you work too long without any breaks, you don't, your brain doesn't rest, your body doesn't rest, and then you can feel like worn out and really exhausted after even one session of studying. You might want to be conscious about yourself and give yourself time for both studying and resting, especially knowing that this is a key to being more effective. And the last one is to manage. This means that you have to be very conscious about when you want to work and when it's more productive for you to work. So if you know your circadian rhythm or your biorhythm, you can apply this knowledge to finding the time when you're the most productive. One of them is cleaning up. There is a book called The Magic of Tidying Up. I have tried this out. It worked for me. Maybe it wouldn't work for all, but it definitely is worth trying to create the space for yourself where it's convenient to work. If your entire room is a mess and you can't really find anything, you will just waste your time trying to find where is your book of that, or where is your notebook of something else, instead of productively working and using the time effectively. So I recommend to at least somehow take a look at it and maybe transform it to your taste, and try to arrange your space in the most effective way that you could ever find. So use your time as if you were an investor. So time is your really high value. And by this I want to say that if you were doing something for a long time, and now you feel that this has stopped making any point for you, try to stop doing that, even though you have already invested some time. So don't think that the fact that you have already spent so much time means that if you finish the task you will be happy, or you will get some positive results. If you feel like on the way you have lost all the sense of making what you were making, just stop it and try to reflect on what has happened and why is it like this, and maybe you have to adjust this task, or maybe you have to replace this task with a slightly different task. So you can understand this in many different contexts. Um, yeah, but an example is, for instance, if you were learning a language and you were learning it because you wanted to go to some country, and you wanted to go to some country because there was like a visa free with this country, and then at some moment they stopped like the visa free, and then you think, okay, I don't want to work to go to this country anymore. It's okay, like I just I don't want to go there, and but you still keep learning the language even though you have no motivation to do that. Maybe you want to revisit that, or maybe you would want to think, oh, why did I initially want to go to that country? Maybe it wasn't just the easiness of going there, but something else that made me so attracted to this. So you would want to be more reflective with your goals, so that you don't just um, you're more thoughtful about what you're doing. Right. And one more, it's the Pareto law. It's called 80-20 law. So which means that the 20% of your actions or what you're doing is bringing you 80% of what you're getting. And this refers us to the important and unurgent tasks. So the important and unurgent tasks, or non-urgent tasks, are those 20% of actions that you have to do to get the most of the results, not the other 80% of urgent and important tasks, or urgent and non-important tasks. So this is why this is so important to work with that table and try to figure out what you're actually doing, because sometimes maybe the majority of the things you're doing are not really bringing you to where you want to be.